You're listening to another edition of the Wealth Foundation podcast, where we help educate listeners on how to create a solid wealth foundation to build their dreams. And now your hosts.
Well, welcome back to the show, everyone. We're really excited. Today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what is the infinite banking concept and give you a big overview of what it is, how it works, and something I discovered years ago. It kept popping up, and I eventually read Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. And the concept alone, I mean, as a finance major and having the background that I have, I've never heard about this concept, and it basically made me pretty excited. So once again, we have authorized practitioner and infinite banking expert, Frank Rydell. How you doing, Frank?
I'm good. Thank you, Eric.
Wonderful. Great to have you back. This is something that's unique and a lot of people have never heard of. And rather than going into the nuts and bolts right away, which we'll do in future shows, the thing about infinite banking is like the name states, it's banking concept and it's infinite on how you can use it. So real quick, maybe just explain how banks work and what people can use this banking concept for, Frank.
So banks really are masters at making money. And what banks make their money based upon the principles of leverage. Leverage being the key with all this is knowing how to leverage money. What you'll be able to do with infinite banking is you will be able to create leverage for yourself. And that's really what the concept is all about. It's highly conceptual, but you're able to learn how a bank would go out and make incredible rates of return on their money. Because guess whose money they're using? They're using somebody else's money, typically the depositor's money or the money that is sitting under in assets in that account. They can use that money to amass more money. So therefore, if you can leverage somebody else's money, that's a key. And I think, Eric, that's what you hear real estate investors talk about all the time. It's using other people's money. And so they call it OPM. So other people's money, if you can utilize that, that is one of the keys to wealth building. It is a cornerstone. What we're going to show you is that with infinite banking, you're able to produce that for yourself. Infinite banking has been a wonderful experience for me and my household. And one thing that we have just benefited from over and over again is being able to have use and control of our money while it's still growing. So we're not sacrificing growth in order to get use and control. Again, this is going to go way beyond just simply chasing a rate of return. This is going to be about having control of your financial future.
Yeah, I don't know if it was irony or fate, Frank, but the same time I discovered infinite banking was right around when I started reading all of Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the concepts overlap about how to change your mind and how to think differently and being open into new ideas. I think most people used to think, or maybe some still do, that you get your education, you work your 30 years, you put it in your 401k, you get your match, and now you're retired. But when you become the banker, when you become the depositor, and you become the borrower, like you're saying, Frank, you get all the leverage that banks are using to get exceptionally high returns. And that's something we're going to dive into really deep in future episodes. I think what people really get hung up on, and I did initially with this whole concept, is the fact that it uses a whole life insurance product. People talk down upon whole life about some of the benefits. We know what Dave and Susie say, and buy term, invest the rest. And what people need to realize is the policy is only the vehicle, but it gets us the results, and there's nothing else that can get us those results based on 401ks or mutual funds. And what I like to give an example of is if you wanted a smooth sailing into retirement and you had a freshly paved road and you had electric chargers everywhere, well, a Tesla would be a great vehicle. But what these policies are designed for are the bumps, the ups and downs, the markets, and making sure that you never get off track. And that's why I compare infinite banking to driving a tank that can go anywhere versus a Tesla that's stuck to that one track. A lot of my clients ask me, well, is infinite banking right for me? I mean, I'm older. Do I have health issues? Here's what my income is. Do I have to be that top 1% that the wealthy are using this strategy for? And maybe that's something you can address, Frank, of who can use it and is it ideal for them?
Well, the thing you always have to keep in mind is that infinite banking and the infinite banking concept is a concept. Now, we do utilize a certain type of whole life policy, as you referenced, Eric, but it is not your garden variety, run-of-the-mill whole life policy like some of the so-called experts out there talk about, good, bad, or otherwise. This is a customized, individualized type of policy that is designed with banking in mind. So it has an intent on banking within this policy, within this tax favorable life insurance product. There is a banking component. So you have to have the right company, the right policy, and the right agent in order for it to really work. But to answer your question, is it right for everyone? It's wonderful, but no strategy, no product, no concept is right for every single person. And I'm a big believer in that you need to sit down with an authorized practitioner, have that one-on-one conversation. And that's something we do with our clients, have that one-on-one conversation where we can meet with them. If they're local, they can come in the office. If they're in one of about 30 some odd states where I know I hold licenses, we can do a teleconference and they can see me on their screen and I can walk them through conceptually how this could work so that they understand, is this something that I may want to do or not want to do? Because as I said, it's not for everyone. So I'd rather have that person see it, be excited about it and want to do it. Or I'd also like to have the person that says, that's not quite what I'm looking for, but frankly, there are other areas or other things you can help me with because that concept is great, but that may be for somebody else. So age, health, income, debt factors, and things like that, they can play a little bit of a role in this, but there are ways to overcome those challenges and still be able to be an effective infinite banking person. So I would say it's not for everyone, but it is for most people. But it's something that you'll only know if you sit down with somebody who understands what they're talking about. And one of the things we've done, Eric, with our practice is made sure that we were authorized practitioners of the concept, which means that we took time to get certified through the Infinite Banking Institute so that we could talk intelligently with people and make sure that people could understand not just the pros and cons and not just the how this is connected to that and mechanically how it works, but also understand and have the vision and be able to show them how to take areas of their life where they're transferring wealth away from them and money is flowing away in the form of interest to lenders and outside sources and be able to revert the streams back to themselves and start recapturing what they've been losing the entire time. But that's something that can be established through a one-on-one consultation. And that, quite frankly, is what I get really excited doing is meeting people for the first time, hearing what they're trying to accomplish, and then trying to design a strategy around that fits them perfectly.
Yeah, I think that's the strategy of our show. Between Frank and I, we want to be educators, and we don't want to be the product pushers and sellers out there. The time we're going to take here, we're going to talk about how it works. What does it do for you? Give some personal examples. Have some of our clients call in and, love to do some question and answers. One of the things that people approach me and say, "Oh, I got a banking policy." Well, I ask them, is it a whole life? Is it from the right carrier? Is it set up properly? Do you have an agent who's going to support you? And one of the things I often find is they've been sold a universal life or a UL product. Can you say anything about that? What makes the right product for the infinite banking?
Well, I can say without any hesitation, universal life will not work for infinite banking. There are features, and we could go into maybe a half-hour conversation about what I would call the ills of universal life. There are a lot of reasons to not utilize a universal life policy. But the flip side of that is people sell universal life to the public because universal life sounds more exciting and attractive. They can package it and market it better than you can your standard whole life policy that your parents and grandparents had. What we do is different. It's somewhere in between. So with a properly designed infinite banking policy, you are not going way out on a ledge with a universal life policy that just flat out will not perform for infinite banking and has a lot of features that once you learn about, you would most likely want to stay away from in most cases. And Eric, I'm always shocked at how many people I find that end up having these policies. And when you can get in and explain the mechanics of how those policies work, it can be frightening what people get into. But the flip side is a regular whole life policy. Well, we're not designing that either. So again, we're designing something in between. We're designing something that is going to have hybrid features, that is going to function as an insurance policy, but it's going to give you additional features that have banking in mind. And that's going to allow you to be able to bank within a policy. And it is the only type of policy, regular traditional whole life policies like your parents or grandparents had. Sure, can you borrow money out of those and pay them back? Yeah, but that's not banking. Okay, that's kind of what some people's idea of banking is, but that's not infinite banking. That's just borrow money out and paying it back. Universal life, I won't go into the details of universal life on this call because I want to keep my blood pressure down, and I don't want to get excited or worked up talking about something that I really cannot believe that people actually buy. It's in my personal opinion, it is a horrible, horrible solution. But infinite banking is the best of all worlds, because with a properly designed whole life policy that is different from the policies that your parents and grandparents had, this policy is going to be designed mechanically to do some things that no other policy you've ever seen is going to do. And that's what's really exciting. So I guess to answer your question, the shorter answer would have been, no, you can't use universal life for infinite banking. Universal life probably, I assume, has its place out there. I've yet to determine where that place may be, but it's certainly not in the banking realm. But there are probably some people out there that it is right for in their circumstance, in their situation. If they understand the pros and cons and what goes along with it, Eric, you know what, more power to you. I think it could be a good strategy for someone if that's what they want. But if you want to do infinite banking and learn to become your own banker conceptually and reverse the streams of interest that's flowing away from you and start creating the family bank, you're going to have to do that with an authorized practitioner and the right type of policy. One without the other is going to lead you to a bad end. So that's really what it comes down to, Eric, is that just taking time to not just research infinite banking, but research it with somebody who can answer your questions.
It's a great overview there, Frank. Definitely look forward to going into some of these topics in really deep, getting in there, taking the car apart, pulling out the spark plugs, and showing you the nuts and bolts of how this whole thing works. We got a lot of exciting programs coming up. Definitely stay tuned for next time when we bring to you something that you brought to my attention about how to create guaranteed income for life. I mean, that's amazing, using the indexing strategy. In the meantime, if anyone has questions or wants to get together and do a one-on-one consultation, you can call the number on the screen or visit the website as well. Look forward to speaking with you next week. Frank, thanks again for all your information, and we look forward to educating you in the future.
Thank you for listening to the Wealth Foundation podcast. The contents of this podcast are for informational and educational purposes only, and not to be viewed as advice. Results may vary, and listeners are encouraged to seek professional financial advice. To learn more or to submit a question, please visit www.thewealthfoundation.org or call 844-OWN-BANK. That's 844-696-2265. Find us on your favorite social media by searching for #The Wealth Foundation.